So this video is the 12 things I either hate or dislike about my Tesla Model 3. Now, before I start this video, I want to be just frank with you. I really do love this car. It's the best car I've ever owned. But I've just put out a video about all the things I love about the Tesla Model 3. But everything isn't always sunshine and rainbows. There are a few things about this car that I think could really be improved. And that's what I'm going over in this video. And remember, it's just a bit of fun, so if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments section below. But let's jump into it. What are the worst things about this car? Okay, so the number one thing I really, maybe don't hate, but really dislike about the car is the back design. So if you saw my other video about the things I love, I absolutely love the front of the car. I think it's very sporty and nice looking, but I think Tesla really need to update the back of the car. I think it looks very dated. It doesn't look very sporty. It doesn't match the front of the car in my opinion. So I've just never been a huge fan of the rear of the car. Sometimes a car can really grow on you, but the rear of this really hasn't. So number two is window wipers. Honestly, this is a real bugbear of mine, and this is something in the Tesla that I really dislike. They don't work very well at all. If you go on YouTube and search for the things that people dislike about their Tesla Model 3s the most, it's always the window wipers. And I've had plenty of cars with automatic window wipers, so I thought this can't be a real problem. Surely it's like a first world problem. But genuinely, they are really bad. So first of all, what will happen on a sunny day occasionally, they will just come on and they won't turn off, or you'll clean your windscreen with the window screen wash. Again, they'll clean the windscreen, but then they'll just stay on intermittently. Thirdly, if it's light rain, they'll either go on super fast and you have to slow them down, or in super heavy rain, they just won't go fast enough. And this is what I find, it's just not very consistent at all in different situations. So now, my windscreen's very blurry, as you can see, and the wipers now are not clearing the screen. In any other car I've had with automatic wipers, when you get this kind of level of just water hitting the windscreen, it will do it, even if it's every 30 seconds, every 60 seconds, and the wipers are on. They're on automatic now. So it just means every now and again you just have to keep tapping this button here on the side to clear. But just before I show you, if I go to window wipers here, you can see it is on auto. I don't have them turned off, and you can see it's just not working very well at all. Now if I press it, that will obviously clear the windscreen, but with automatic wipers in a 50 grand car, you shouldn't have to keep pressing them. And now it seems to be working okay. If anything, it's a little bit fast now, but you get the idea. This is why I don't like the wipers in the Tesla Model 3. So number three on the list of things that I don't like is the lack of third-party chargers on the Tesla's built-in maps. So you can use the maps to find superchargers, which is fantastic. It's really, really good. And you can press the little button down here to find kind of like destination chargers or smaller chargers. But it doesn't have any of the InstaVolts, any of the Genie Point or Pod Point chargers, and that's a little bit frustrating. It means you need to use an app like ZapMap to find chargers if you're somewhere a little bit remote. I think it would be really nice if you could actually add other chargers into the system. So instead of just having to use a supercharger, you could maybe put in an InstaVolt charger if you like using those kind of chargers, and then have your car navigate to one of those without having to Google it first. So number four is phantom braking, and man, is that scary when it does it. Now, I'll be completely honest with you, I love Autopilot, I always use it, and phantom braking has only happened twice in the 6 months I've owned the car. But it's scary when it does happen. I know on a lot of Tesla forums, people are like, well, just accelerate when it happens. But let me tell you, when you're doing 70 miles an hour on the motorway and your car does an emergency stop, in that split second, you don't know whether you've hit something, you don't know if the car's seen something that you haven't, and you're trying to process this while your heart is racing as well. So it's just a very, very scary feeling, and it feels like it could be quite dangerous as well. If someone was right behind me when mine did that, they might have just driven into the back of me. Luckily, there was no one behind me, so it was kind of okay. And you start to get aware of maybe where you shouldn't use Autopilot based on this phantom braking, but it's definitely one of the things that I dislike about the Model 3, the phantom braking. So number five, it's the increasing cost of public charging. So this isn't really a Tesla fault, it's more of an energy supplier fault and I guess a charging provider fault. But when I first got the car in March, which is only 6 months ago, it was extremely cheap to use public chargers. Most of them were around 20 pence per kilowatt, maybe 30 pence per kilowatt for the more expensive ones. I'm finding now some of them are 45p, 67 pence per kilowatt. Even the superchargers have gone up from sort of about 20 to, I think one was 38 pence that I used the other day. And basically what that means is, if you're paying around 67 pence per kilowatt, it's roughly the same price as petrol, just roughly, you know, given the MPG and everything else. So I'm just worried that once we all start getting an electric car, are they just going to keep ramping up the cost of public charging? And so for people like me who don't have home charging, I mean, just remember that not everyone has a driveway or the ability to home charge. Is it going to be just as expensive as owning a petrol vehicle? Now, of course, at the moment it's not. I've had a lot of free public charging in Manchester, and some of the chargers in supermarkets are quite cheap, but I'm just worried that it's starting to get into that kind of scary level where it could become equal to or more expensive than petrol. Number 6 is winter range loss. Now, I know, this happens with petrol and diesel cars too, but it really doesn't happen to the same degree as an electric car does. I know a lot of people will say in the comments it does, but honestly, I've had lots of petrol cars, lots of diesel cars, and as you might know, I live in Manchester, my family are in Norfolk, and I do that winter journey, 5-hour journey. I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times, and in a petrol or diesel car, if it says I've got 300 miles, I will roughly have at least 260 to 300 miles. In this Tesla Model 3, I did the same journey. It said I had 300 and I could only really squeeze out about 170, driving in the same manner as I normally do. So in the summer, it's absolutely fine. I don't really have range anxiety at all, but in the winter, you definitely get a loss. And it's just something to be wary about. You can obviously work around it, but it obviously increases your charging costs too, because the amount of range that it says you have will be eaten into by that winter loss. So it's just something to consider. So number 7 is interior build quality and squeaking issues. Now, I know there will be some Tesla owners out there who haven't had the issues I'm talking about. So this is maybe only representative of my car or a smaller selection of cars. But out of all the cars I've owned, this one already has the most little tiny squeaks and niggles. It just seems like every time I drive the car, depending on the temperature, maybe the dash will squeak, maybe the side doors will squeak, maybe something in the back will squeak. And I've actually taken the car back to Tesla twice to try and get this resolved. And it seems like they put some felt tape into the door, it helps it a little bit, and then this door starts to squeak. But it's just very frustrating. I think for a car which costs this much money, you shouldn't have squeaking and creaking problems, especially when there's not much to the car as well. It's so simplistic. But there are loads of little issues like that, and it just feels like to me the build quality isn't quite up there. Yes, it's definitely better than a Ford, a Renault, cars like that, but is it up to a Mercedes or a BMW level? I don't think so, not yet. Okay, so number 8 is paint. Now, to be honest, I haven't had some of the paint issues that I've seen other people having, which is just the paint literally flaking off and they've had to get it re-sprayed. Now, I haven't got any PPF protection at all, and overall my paint has been pretty good. But I do find that it does seem to mark a lot easier than any other black car I've had. So just washing the car as carefully as I can, I'm still getting little swirl marks. If I sort of rub a bag along the side of the car, I notice that it's actually scratched the car. Now, they're not deep scratches, but I just think this is just after 6 months of ownership of the car. What's it going to be like in 3 or 4 years? I'm not that confident with the paint quality on the Model 3. It's good, don't get me wrong. It's not as bad as some people say. But again, it's one of those things. For a 50 grand car, it's not the best. So number 9 is the indicators. They are a bit frustrating when you first get the car because they kind of have this soft touch effect. So I'm gonna put the indicator on now. It doesn't click up into a position like a normal indicator does. So a normal indicator will have a static position and it'll click up or it'll click down to go left. Now, with a Tesla, you kind of just push it up into a position and it goes back to its standard position. But it's a little bit tricky to get on and off, or you'll find that it'll turn itself off sometimes it doesn't. And then other times you will go to turn it off, but you'll have to put the indicator into the same position. So if you're turning right to turn it off, you'll have to turn it right again, which just feels a bit odd. Now, this isn't something I really hate, but I thought it was definitely worth a little mention. So next up, a thing I really dislike is that the car can't park itself. There's no automated parking included with the car at all. If you want the car to be able to parallel park or park into a parking bay like these, you have to pay another £1,500 for that. And let me tell you, I've done the enhanced Autopilot trial and it's rubbish. It can't park itself at all into these kind of bays. It's really not that good at parallel parking. It nearly crashed into my wall. So I think for a car with such great technology, a car that can drive itself, it's got cameras all the way around it and radars and things like that, it can't actually park itself. And there's been loads of cars out for years, Mercedes, BMWs, Fords, that have been able to park themselves for years and years and years. So I'm just so disappointed that a 50 grand car doesn't have the ability to have at least some form of self-parking. Number 11, using the touchscreen for absolutely everything. Now, I like a touchscreen. I'm quite a techie person, so I quite enjoy this. But actually, I think it would be good to have some physical buttons for some things. Even like the window wipers, being able to control the speed on one of the side levers here would be much better than having to go into a menu. A button for the glove box, actually on the glove box, rather than being hidden in the menu. I would like to see that. It is a bit frustrating, and I can see, especially for older people maybe who are not used to using tech or computers, this could be very frustrating. So number 12 is Autopilot not reading the speed limit correctly. So essentially what should happen, if you're in Autopilot and you're going at 60 miles an hour, if you suddenly go into a 40 mile an hour zone, you can see on the car, it actually reads the sign, it displays it, and in some cases, it slows you down if you're in Autopilot. But it's very, very inconsistent. I've even had it on the car where it reads the sign. You can see it says 40, but I'm still going at 60. Or it just completely disregards the sign at all. And that happens a lot if there's maybe roadworks going on. So if you're on an Autopilot, obviously you are paying attention, but you can suddenly go from a 70 to a 50 and there's speed cameras and your car is still plowing through at 70 miles per hour, which could cause you to get a speeding ticket. So I think there does need to be some huge improvements to the car being able to read the speed limit signs. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget, this is just a bit of fun. I really do love the Tesla Model 3, and some of these issues may sound worse in the video than they are in real life. I have no plans at all to sell or get rid of this car. I really love it. I hope you love yours too. Let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to check out the video where I talk about nothing but love about the Tesla Model 3, and there's more love points than there are hate points. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.